Mike's here.
I'm here.
Mike's here.
I'm here. Dimitri. Dimitri's down there.
So that makes 11, I think.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Selectmen's meeting, March 7th, 2002 at 6 p.m. This is a joint meeting with the budget board. But I'm going to open it up and take a roll call of the selectmen. Alan?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Ed?
Here.
And Sheila's here. Good evening. This is a virtual Board of Selectmen meeting. If you wish to make a public comment and speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature in your device. The moderator will be notified and will unmute you. Please identify yourself before making comment. And Dave, I usually ask you how many people are in the audience.
There are six. Dave, also, I noticed that David James is out in the audience. Could we promote him since he's part of the budget board? Thanks.
And this is a joint meeting with the budget board. Are you all called into order?
Not yet. Do you want me to?
Do it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll call the meeting to order and I'll take a roll call. Michelle Powell.
Here.
Michelle. Grace Adams.
Here.
Here.
Dan Beard.
Here.
Dave Betsis.
Here.
John Dykstra.
Here.
Alan Evelyn.
I'm here.
Dave James. Did we get him up here yet?
He's still muted, but
I'm here.
he's
Okay,
there.
yay. Kai Leffler.
Here.
Dimitri Michaud.
Here.
Steve Turner.
Here.
And Rick Wakeland.
Here.
And I'm April Dufo, and I'm here. So we have all 12 tonight.
Bingo.
Great. Lori, do you want me to read the proposed order or just get to it?
It's up to you.
Let's get to it.
All right. So last meeting, we went over the overview of the budget and we did about half of the operational budget. Our goal tonight is to do the other half of the operational budget before we head into a regular selectmen's meeting. And then next Thursday on St. Patrick's Day, we will be reviewing the outside agency requests as well as the capital. So does anybody have any questions or comments from the last meeting before we get started?
Nope.
Okay, so with that, we're going to start with our solid waste budget, and Chris Stimione, our Public Works Director, is going to do that.
Hi, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good, thanks.
Good, thank you.
So I'm going to go back to Lori's comment about how she's good at keeping men out of trouble. She saved all of you tonight from death by PowerPoint with my presentation. So we're gonna be short and succinct with it. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Listen.
So I'm just going to start with an overview with the solid waste. So last year, recycling had been back for an entire year. I think that we could probably all agree that last year was a year of higher economic activity for us. There were a lot more people in town. So based on that activity that we saw, we kind of assumed that the tonnage for the curbside waste and recycling was likely reflective of what we're going to be seeing here for the coming year. So last year, as you can see, this is just a table that we had put together, but Casella had collected approximately 2,389 tons of curbside waste and 369 tons of curbside recycling. So based on those numbers, we did budget for 2,500 tons of curbside waste and 375 tons of recycling for the coming year. Overall, I would say that we had a pretty successful year last year. Our average contamination rate was 3.57%. I think that we need to continue moving forward and try to even do a better job. We need to continue with our recycling education efforts, maintain low contamination rates, and overall, I think we need to look for ways that we can reduce waste in general.
Can you Chris, can you just remind people what happens when we have contamination in our solid waste?
Sure. So, when our waste goes up to EcoMaine, when the waste is removed from the truck, it isn't inspected. And if we have material that isn't recyclable in there, we do get charged a contamination fee. I believe that contamination fee is $35 a ton. So the more that we can keep out of there, the better off we are. That reduces our cost to dispose of the recycled material.
Chris, do you have a total of what we paid in contamination fees for last year?
I don't have it in front of me right now, Sheila, but that's certainly something I could look into. And
Yeah, I'd like to.
Actually, Chris, I have that number. I believe it's zero. I don't know of any time that we were charged a recycling fee, but you must check, Chris. I may be wrong on that.
No, I think you probably are, John, because when I was looking back through the numbers to actually calculate the contamination rate, I don't think it was high enough on any one occasion to get charged a contamination fee.
Yep. No, we did a great job.
Yeah. So moving on, everybody.
Hello. I have a question.
Hi, Kai.
Hi, Chris. You said when they open the truck and look at the recycling we've sent there and they see contamination, what degree is that? Do they look at the whole load from the truck or what they see on the initial look, or how does that work?
Well, John may be able to speak to that better than I can, but it is kind of a subjective process. So it depends on who is actually looking at what's coming out of the truck and trying to make a determination as to, basically what percentage of that load is contaminated.
Right. The load is dumped on the floor, Kai. So it's out of the truck. It's dumped out on the floor, spread around with a front loader, and then they visually look at it. And that's where the plastic bags are such a curse, because the minute they see recycling in a plastic bag or they see blocks of styrofoam, wow, does that hit us hard? And
Amen. I was just curious. I didn't want to just see the worst first and damn the whole load kind of thing.
Sure.
Right. Thank you.
I can see.
So I'll move on to the landfill. Everybody's aware of the closed landfill that we have up on Beechwood Avenue, adjacent to the Highway Department. Back in November, the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, in response to the concerns that we've all seen recently in the news about PFAS, required us to do some additional testing in the watershed surrounding the closed landfill. This increased monitoring cost was approximately $65,000. Of that $65,000, a lot of that was for the initial sampling and the PFAS testing itself. We did just recently hear back from Maine DEP yesterday, and they are looking to cover 100% of the cost for the investigation side of this. So that would be for the sampling and the testing. So the $65,000 that you see, I believe that we are going to be able to save a fair amount of that. I don't know if Lori, would you like to speak to that further?
We had originally budgeted an additional $65,000 in case the town was going to be responsible for the entire cost. So we do think that as of today, we can say that there should be savings there. Denise did some calculations on our potential exposure, And Denise, we're thinking that probably we ought to keep about 10,000 of that.
Yes, if that was a question, that's what I calculated.
So we could probably reduce the proposed budget by about 55,000 there.
That's good news.
Any more questions on that?
Chris, this is Alan Evelyn. I had a question about commercial establishments. From what I see in town is that most of the commercial establishments have their own trash pickup. Is that a fair statement?
I would say quite a few of them do, yes.
At least the ones with the most volume, because they need it more frequently than they would ever have it with the curbside service we have. But are the tipping fees for the town also, does that include the commercial pickups?
Well, no, the commercial pickups would be private pickups. So that they generally engage in a contract with a waste hauling company.
That's for the pickup. But is that also true with the actual tipping fees that the town pays?
So the commercial waste?
Yes.
I don't believe so. John's still here?
Yeah, I know from the recycling standpoint that it would, I don't believe would be better, but I'm not clear if the contracts include, for the commercial contracts, private ones, both hauling and tipping. I do not know.
So we would only pay for tipping for those pickups that happen under the town's contract for Casella.
Right.
Okay. I mean, they're two separate contracts, right?
Well, we have a tipping contract with, what happened since our original tipping contract is Casella bought everybody up. So now Casella is our tipping contract and Casella is our curbside pickup. So yes, it covers the tipping. The tipping would only get covered if Casella from our curbside pickup brought it to the landfill to get disposed of.
Yeah, as someone who has had experience in the town over many years related to me that they felt we were still paying the tipping fees from the commercial establishments, not the pickups.
If you see the little retail establishments downtown, if you go through a trash pickup day and they have trash and recycling out just like residential, those do get picked up as part of our contract.
Okay. Thank you.
So with that, do we have any more questions?
I've got a question.
Do you want to stop sharing, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris. I just wondered. I've heard a rumor around that the recycle is through the pandemic ended up becoming more valuable. Is that true? And is there a possibility that we could potentially pay less in the future?
I'd have to defer to John on that. I haven't seen any recent information.
John is the head of our solid waste recycling committee. If anybody wonders why Chris keeps saying John.
Chris says it is definitely clear that recyclables have become more valuable, particularly the metals, far more valuable. The way that works for us is our contract with EcoMaine. We contract for a set fee per ton during the course of the year. And then at the end of their year, which I believe is June, they calculate what their processing costs per ton actually were. And then we are refunded 80% of any difference between what we were paying and what the actual net profit was for their processing of the recyclables.
Oh, okay.
So we do get a true up at the end of the year,
Yeah.
If their costs are more, then we actually have to obviously pay to make up that true up. In that case, we pay 100%, but they're holding the cards. But we still do benefit from the rising price with the higher demand for recyclable materials.
Okay. Thank you.
So if any other questions on solid waste? If not, then we're going to go to page 139, which is public health. And Allison Kennebunkport, our public health director,
Hey, everyone.
is here.
Hi, Allison.
And so Allison, do you want to review the public health budget?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. Hold on one second. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening. And wow, what a year it's been again for public health this year. And I just want to thank everyone for a great year and all of your support. We're very fortunate to have our community behind us. And this year is a very special year for the public health department. The town nurse will be celebrating 75 years of service. And that I hope you all pay attention to the town website and both the homepage and the public health page, as we've arranged throughout the year to have some events to celebrate and classes and lectures and things. So we hope you will come. And as COVID continues to haunt us through 2021 and into 2022, we've continued to be super busy with COVID testing and support to the community. But we are seeing a lull in our testing at the moment. And so fingers crossed, this continues to subside and hopefully go away. Working in the healthcare field, you have to be on your toes, adaptable, and ready to deal with change. And as COVID and its variants change and morph, so does healthcare. So while COVID testing at our office is down, we have been seeing quite a drastic increase in hospitalizations for procedures that have been postponed due to the pandemic. And when discharged home, our community members are needing far more services than even more. They've had shorter hospitalization stays.
Allison, are you planning to still be on the same slide? Because that's all.
I'm going to start in just a sec. Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a glitch.
Yep. So shorter hospitalization stays, lack of staffing, and insurance dictation have really sent patients home with more needs than ever. So we're here to help, and we've been quite busy in a good way. So Lori had asked us to try to spruce up our presentations and make them more interesting. So I've taken some photos. I couldn't take patient photos, obviously, for confidentiality reasons, but I've tried to match some photos off the internet with some of the things that we've been up to. So there's no sense of order at all. It's just going a bunch of things. So we've been busy with Corona, COVID testing and education to the town staff, businesses, RSU 21 students and staff and community members. We've had monthly blood drives, and we've started a community health connector newsletter that's been pretty popular. It's full of great stuff. And we've done yearly well water testing, and we started Stand for Seniors project with the highway, and we had 32 seniors participate this year. We've been busy with Stuff the Bus on voting day, water quality, both at Goose Rocks and at Colony Beaches throughout the summer, from Memorial Day till Labor Day. We had a spring intern from UNE who helped to enter data and create an educational storybook map for the community on understanding our watershed at Goose Rocks Beach. It's located under the public health website, under the Maine Healthy Beach and Water Quality tab. We got a new electric car for our traveling about town, and we are celebrating 75 years of a town nurse this year. We started planning events during last year in preparation. We've made house visits to our patients and office visits to assist in medical needs of the community. We've organized flu clinics with Walgreens last October. And COVID vaccine clinics were organized with York County EMA, both in November and in the spring, providing J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer vaccine to the community, as well as including homebound seniors. Your Health Matters book group was started, offering a book discussion at Graves Library on health-related topics. These are held monthly, and we really would love to see it grow and hope to welcome new members. So come on and join us. We offer it both in Zoom or in person. I think it's probably going more towards in person now. So we've collaborated with Mindy Muse Yoga to offer small outdoor yoga classes to seniors while the weather was good. And we look forward to increasing this offering in the coming year. We coordinated employee wellness activities throughout the year and assist the Health Council with welcoming new babies to our town with a welcome baby bag. It's no longer the baby boxes that I've talked about in the past. There was a regulatory ruling by the Consumer Product Safety Commission that banned bassinets without legs or a stand. And so the Fin-Bin company stopped their production of the baby box. So now we have these cute little baby backpacks that are actually more like a baby diaper bag. And it's pretty cute actually for both a male or female to carry. We collaborated with UNE and Coastal Healthy Communities to provide classes on Narcan and the use and administration, and reducing the stigma of opioid addiction. And if you do join us, you would receive free Narcan to take home with you. We also are a medication and sharps drop-off location for town residents. We continue to have a busy loan closet with durable medical equipment to borrow, and I finally was able to get my foot care training in and pass the certification exam, and I'm now a certified foot care nurse specialist. I've established monthly foot care clinics for the community to sign up and receive foot care. Some statistics for the Public Health Office. We had 910 home visits this year, which was increase about 6% over 2020. We had 1,250 office visits. A lot of those were for COVID testing, about 1,004 actually for COVID testing. We had 199 pieces of loan equipment come and go, and we had 3 health officer complaints, and we had 16 babies born in 2021, where we had 13 in 2020. We still have not had one born in 2022 yet. We're waiting.
What's a health officer complaint? What does that?
So sometimes we get complaints about someone might have gotten sick at a restaurant and they just want to report it to us, or they're concerned about some living conditions of some of the houses or apartments, mold in an apartment or something. So we have to go and see what's going on.
It's not a complaint against you, in other words.
No. Goals for this year, we're going to party all year long with celebrations and events for our 75th anniversary. We're going to reestablish relations with other town departments and agencies as we come out of the COVID pandemic, and provide senior enrichments, activities for health, wellness, and education to our community. We're going to continue to host our monthly blood drives because they continue to be really successful. Our monthly foot care clinics. We're going to continue to work with Maine Healthy Beach Program to monitor water quality at Goose Rocks Beach and the watershed, and continue to be a resource for COVID-19 questions and testing as needed. Provide medical care to town residents and home visits and office visits, and provide general assistance and social service assistance to town residents. We are continuing education as well for the nurses, and both Kim and I are currently enrolled in a certification course for senior home safety specialists, and that's to be able to assess individuals' homes for safety and hopefully prevent some fall issues at the home. So we're in the middle of doing that. Current budget changes for my department. We have a slight increase in our personnel line due to scheduled salary increases, along with just requesting about 2 hours a week to add to our part-time position, to go from 24 to 26 hours a week. Due to the busyness of our department, I really could use a little extra help there. And some of the other line items that increased is due to inflation, and that's pretty much it. The rest of my budget has no changes. Does anyone have any questions with that?
Allison, I have a question aside from the budget. Do you know
Okay.
anything whether the schools are going to let the kids loose without their masks? Do you
They've
know?
already started. They started, I believe it was yesterday.
So
Yeah, that was Wednesday.
what schools?
All of them.
All of them.
21.
All of our issue 21.
And I even noticed the bus drivers today didn't have them on.
Great.
My husband did.
Oh, did he?
Good to hear.
Hey, Allison,
Yes.
does the locker for equipment rental or giveaway, will it take oxygen generating systems? We have a friend who had his mother-in-law pass away, and they have a oxygen generator that she could carry with her, and they wanted to give it away to somebody or someplace that could use it. Can you use
Usually the oxygen companies take those back.
No, this is one that they purchased.
Oh, we don't, only because it's a doctor. A doctor needs to prescribe the oxygen, and it's usually billed through their insurance companies. And I just can't hand it out. But I can help if they're looking to donate it somewhere. I could help find a place that it would go. I
Good.
just know that we wouldn't take it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Do you want me to go right into welfare then?
Sure.
So welfare's on page 143, so it just follows the public health budget.
All right. So again, I'd like to thank this community for being so generous and supportive of our public health department in the various ways to support those in need in town. We have a few programs here. We have a backpack program, back to school, and that is, we had 7 kids from 3 different families participate in that. We have a newish program through Rotary that's called Community Strong, Character Strong, Children Strong, or CS3, and they provide back to school clothing to kids in need. And we had 5 kids from 2 different families that participated in that this year. We have Secret Santa, and we had 6 kids from 3 different families participate with Secret Santa. We have fuel assistance, and we had last year 13 fuel requests totaling $3,078.23. And that includes electric, oil, kerosene, propane, and wood pellets. We have a food assistance through Community Outreach Services. They're our local food pantry. And residents can call or go online to set up times that works best for them now to pick up an order of food. Community Outreach Services has really made this process much easier for everyone. And because the individual can now either call directly or go online and sign up for a time slot that they can go and pick up their food, it bypasses my office. So I've kind of lost the ability to see who's requesting food. And that is a problem. And we're working on it with Community Outreach Services because I like to know who's using that service that I can help them in the other services that we offer, or if they need assistance in other ways. That's the only reason. But we're trying to work out that kink. So we also have a general needs program here in town that assists anyone that might need some assistance that doesn't qualify for general assistance through the state. So, and then general assistance, we had 7 general assistance requests last year in 2021, which was down from 18 requests in 2020. None of them qualified for assistance through the state, and we were able to assist them all some other way through our various accounts that we have. So,
Allison, have you noticed an uptick in fuel needs?
Not yet, but I think just because the fuel has just skyrocketed recently, I think I wouldn't be surprised. if it starts.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I haven't yet.
Okay.
Good thing we're at the end of winter.
I'm sorry?
I say it's a good thing that we're at the end of winter almost.
True, yes.
Allison, I have a question. Back on page 141, there under miscellaneous, there's a water quality line item which has remained flat. It's a $500.
Yeah.
That's the contribution that we make to Healthy Maine beaches to do the testing. Is that what that is for?
We've kind of just had that all along, since I've worked here. I think it's been about the same, and it's just been part of an account that we can utilize towards water testing. But I think there's other resources for the water testing as well.
That's not under your budget then?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Allison? I would just comment under the welfare, it seems like a very small amount. And that's really because the program at state level changed pretty dramatically over the last decade, so that it's very difficult for people to qualify. So we're very fortunate that we do receive a lot of donations, and Allison has those in which she's able to assist people with.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Allison.
So next we're going to shellfish conservation. And shellfish conservation is on page 147 in your book. So basically the shellfish conservation budget pays for our shellfish warden. We share a shellfish warden with the town of Wells. And they come and do enforcement during our shellfish season. And we do provide a small amount for mileage or travel or training that's necessary. So it's has a small increase of $84, which is related to a cost of living adjustment for the shellfish warden. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to go to page 149, which is public restrooms. So your public restrooms is where we have our cleaning service and the utilities for the Dock Square restrooms, as well as the porta potties that we have at Goose Rocks Beach. The cost on the porta potties is mostly because of the daily cleaning that we do at Goose Rocks Beach during the summer months, during the heavy season. The funds necessary to pay for the cleanings in this account are actually a transfer from the Dock Square enterprise account. So you will see that in the revenue side of the budget. So this is really a wash, but the expense comes from here. Any questions on that? If not, then we are going to do the Public Works budget, which is page 151, right after your tab called Public Works. And Chris Simeone is going to take you through that, as well as utilities and streetlights.
I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay, so we had a few changes this year in Public Works. We further looked at restructuring upon Mike Claus's retirement and my promotion to director. We looked at making some changes that would further unify both divisions of Public Works. And when I say both divisions, I mean the wastewater division and the highway division. So on the right here, you'll kind of see, this is our organizational chart now. So on the wastewater side, we have Eric LaBelle, our engineer, and reporting to him is the lead operator and the mechanic, and the wastewater operators report to the lead operator. On the highway side, we have the operations manager. This position hasn't been filled yet. We're currently advertising for it. And reporting to the operations manager is the mechanic, the foreman, and hopefully the new building and grounds person. So although we've changed some titles, we haven't actually increased the number of management positions. We've simply kind of just realigned responsibilities under these positions to kind of further the goals of both departments and bring both of these divisions under one director. So as such, the salaries for each of the managers is split accordingly. So the public works director is split 50-50 between highway and wastewater budgets. The principal process engineer is split 70% wastewater and 30% highway. And the operations manager is split 70% highway and 30% wastewater. So this is the crew of the highway department. The men and women of the highway department are responsible for plowing 52 miles of road and sidewalks. We also do all the public parking lots, as well as all the facility parking lots, meaning the fire departments, the police department, town office, etc. We're also responsible for the road and drainage repairs, as well as all maintenance. We do painting of crosswalks and parking spaces in the spring and summer months. And we also assist other departments with other needs that we're able to do, such as painting, trash removal, or anything like that other departments would need from us. This is our town mechanic. This is Rick Bleakney. Rick is basically responsible for the repair and the maintenance of the entire town fleet. So this would be the public works fleet, the police department fleet, the fire department fleet, the town office fleet, and other town assets that require mechanical repair. He often does work down at Government Wharf and Cape Porpoise Pier. This is a list right now of the current public works fleet. Right now, this is a replacement schedule that we're looking at for the coming years. As you can see, we have a lot of equipment that needs to be maintained on a regular basis. What we're seeing is a lot of increases. As you're aware, we're seeing inflation now in excess of 7%. Ultimately, these costs get passed on to all the consumers, and we're no different. We're seeing the increased cost of steel, the increased cost of oil. That's important to us as not just fuel and heating, but also for maintenance supplies. And we're also seeing increased costs in capital equipment as well. So these increased costs are obviously affecting our operating budget, our repair budget. We do have an aging fleet of vehicles that require maintenance and repairs. Another issue that does affect our budget as well is the emissions equipment on our new diesel equipment. There are a lot of problematic systems now on the newer diesel equipment that require a lot of attention. And unfortunately, a lot of the associated repairs and the parts for these problems are also very expensive. Thankfully, we do have Rick as a mechanic, and he is up to speed on using the new computerized equipment to diagnose and repair these vehicles. On the right, you see kind of an empirical formula for maintenance and costs for planning of vehicles and equipment. So large equipment would be like our front end loader or our 5-ton trucks. Those are the big trucks with the plows and the sanders in the body. The front end loader, the backhoe. 0 to 8 years of age, usually planned for about $5,000 per year in maintenance. After 8 years of age, that goes up to $7,000 per year. Small equipment, this would be like our 1-ton pickups, our 3/4-ton pickups with the plows, our trackless, and other small vehicles. 0 to 8 years of age, we plan for $3,500 per year in maintenance and repairs. And after they exceed 8 years in age, we're looking at $5,000 per year in repairs. So just for our fleet alone, this total is $65,000. And this is on the average what we've been spending the last couple of years. So this is the increase that we're showing for the $28,000 in the vehicle maintenance and repairs budget.
A question on that before you move off it.
Sure.
Are those, can you go back to that slide? Are those the cost of the items that are used in the repair, or does that also have the burden of labor included in that?
No, this is just the cost of the repair parts and maintenance supplies.
Okay, no manpower burden placed in that.
That's correct.
That's covered separately. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yes, Dan.
The cost of parts for fire equipment, as an example, that comes out of the fire department budget, doesn't it? As opposed to this budget here?
That's correct, Dan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So this is just an example of one item that we've run into this past year. This is an oil pan off of one of our 5-ton dump trucks. We've replaced 2 of these. You can see the corrosion. Obviously, the resulting issue is that, we start losing oil, and then you could have a catastrophic engine failure. But just these replacement oil pans cost us $761 a piece. We've replaced 2 of them this year. So as you can see, it doesn't take long to start spending money, even on smaller items such as this. So this year we're proposing a building and grounds maintenance worker. Historically, we haven't had one here in town. The town currently has $13 million in building assets that do need to be maintained. Typically, department heads and employees at those individual departments have tried to perform maintenance as we've had time, such as cleaning, floor sealing, and that type of stuff. But we probably haven't had enough time to do the job that we would like to do and maintain these buildings the way we would like to. So this year we're proposing a position for this, and the funding would be appropriated as 89% of it to the general fund and 11% to the Dock Square Enterprise Fund. And this person would be responsible for cleaning the Dock Square bathrooms, cleaning the individual, buildings that we have here in town, such as town office, the police department, the fire department, wastewater and highway facilities. On average, as far as we can tell, during the winter months, we'd be looking at about 28 hours of cleaning a week just between all the departments. I think that would go up in the summer months when we do need to maintain the Dock Square restrooms. But outside of that, this person would be responsible for light repair and some corrective maintenance. So this would be caulking and sealing trim, painting painting rooms that need to be painted. There might be some furniture assembly or something like that that needs to be completed as well. So that's what we'd be looking at this person to do.
As well as assisting during the winter months with, shoveling, making sure that public has access, and in the summer, maybe some additional lawn maintenance.
Right.
Chris?
Yes, Dan.
Question. The Cape Fire Station, we get a rental, as it were, from the town, but we are responsible for all of the maintenance, upkeep, paying for utilities, and everything that way. Is that true also, to your knowledge, of Goose Rocks? And Wilds District could be different because that's town-owned building. But does Goose Rocks and the Cape share the same kind of help from the town, as it were? Or Lori, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, Chris wouldn't really know the answer to that. Their agreements are similar, but there is some differences. There are some utilities paid by the town on Goose Rocks. But maintenance on the building and all of that is the Goose Rocks company responsibility.
Okay. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions on the Public Works budget for Chris? He went over the highlights.
Chris, I have a question.
Hey, Steve.
Hi. Do you have general guidelines, or are they specific to each asset that you have when you are considering replacing them?
Yeah. So, generally we like to keep a rotation. The 5-ton trucks, for example, have been kind of on a 12-year rotation. I think that can change based on, our experience with the equipment. I think it's like anything else. You get a vehicle that becomes a problematic vehicle, or you have a vehicle that may be suffering from rust issues more so, even perhaps than an older piece of equipment. So I think at that time, we rely on the mechanic to kind of make a judgment decision on which vehicles, need to be traded out before others.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chris?
Just a quick question. I was noticing on the gas and diesel line that you're budgeting, and they're non-trivial numbers, $30,000 if I've read this correctly, at $3 a gallon for diesel and $2.75 a gallon for gas, and we know that ain't going to last long. Is there a contingency, or do you anticipate needing to have a contingency for that?
Yes, this is a discussion that we've had just the last few days. Obviously the energy crisis right now has come to light over the last few days. That is something that we discussed. We do plan on having a contingency for that. And I don't know if Lori would like to speak to that further.
Right. So tonight, near the end of your agenda, is the contingency account, where we do have a small amount of money for fuel contingency. And so our plan was for Denise to update you on that. She's done some investigation and talk about a range that we're estimating we might need to add. So remember, we saved you money in the beginning of the meeting. We might need to spend some of that savings. So I am just going to turn it over to Denise to do the utility budget, and that is on page 159, and the utilities is basically our hydrants.
Folks, it's a pretty easy line, although one that most municipalities dread. It's our fee for our hydrants. And though our water fees went up 4% within our individual departmental lines, this line went up 2.36%, and it obviously is based on a formula. And I was given that number. So that's why it says 4%, but it's actually 2.36.
Does anybody have any questions on utilities?
No.
Okay, so Chris is back up with streetlights. And streetlights is on page 169. No, that's long. That's recreation. It's 165.
Okay, so we currently own 277 streetlight fixtures here in town. Due to the age and the style of them, the replacement parts just aren't available anymore. We have started to mount some test fixtures here in town at various locations for evaluation. we're looking for input from the public as well as the select board and anybody else that would like to give us an input. We have feedback forms available. They're on the Public Works Department website. But we have included several test fixtures here in town. Right now, we've looked at 4 different styles. One is the Leotech Comfort View fixture, the Hall of Fame fixture, the King Luminaire fixture, and the Lumec Road Focus fixture. A list of the fixtures is on the website. If you'd like to take a look at that list and maybe travel through town and have a look at these, certainly your feedback would be appreciated on it. We're trying to look for some direction as to where we're going to go in the future for street light replacements.
Chris, if we go look at it, what are we looking for?
So on the website, there will be a street and a pole number. And on that pole number, you'll see the new fixture. You may want to visit it during the day and also at night, just so you can see what it looks like both during the day and at night when it's illuminated. And, tell us which style you like better.
Is it a safe assumption that they're all using the same amount of energy?
Yes. Yeah. Because they're all the same wattage LED bulbs.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to share, Chris, if you'll take that down. I'll share the town website where we have that information posted. So this is, if you go to our town website under departments, and if you went to Public Works, and then you would see street light over here, and you click on that, you will see where the locations are. So here are the actual locations for the Leotech, the Hall of Fame, and the King Luminaire. And then you can get a map by clicking there. And then you could certainly email Chris or give him a call or myself. And is that what you're looking for, Chris?
Yeah, we're looking for some feedback. This year we don't have any intention of replacing any of the streetlight fixtures other than maybe ones that perhaps break or, become non-repairable. But we're just looking for a direction in the future next year, maybe toward a capital plan so that we can start picking some of these up for future replacements.
And we're doing that in conjunction with our our lighting committee, which is run by Jim Stockman. So certainly if you see Jim, you can give him that feedback as well.
I guess I'll have to know it when I see it, because I can't imagine what would be the difference. Is it the beauty of the light, or is it how much light it gives? I guess I don't know what we would be looking for.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So Rick, the style of the fixtures will be different. They do vary.
All right.
It'd be just like picking out an interior lighing fixture for your house.
Okay, it's sort of like picking out one for your house.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's they vary in style, and they do vary in I would say not light output, but perhaps the way the light is cast.
Oh, okay.
Right. And it also is the color of the lighting, how far it goes at night. We've had the platter lights have a very low level light. It's an incandescent kind of yellow light. In the past, when we moved to the LED bulbs, that changed the lighting. And these new fixtures and lights, like if you go look at a CMP Cobra headlight, that is going to distill a lot more light and be a lot brighter. And that sodium kind of feel. So the chief of police wants me to remind everyone that when you're out looking at lights, to park safely, be aware of traffic, and follow the rules of the road.
Watch the road, not the light. Right.
And if I can also say, probably the other thing we look for is keeping the charm of Kennebunkport so that it doesn't look like something you'd see on a highway.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
Chris, is it too early in the game to say, as far as cost of each of those 4 and availability as far as stock, or is that down the road a bit?
That's going to probably be down the road a bit, especially now given, manufacturing setbacks and, lead times. We're just seeing so much get affected. I mean, it's volatile right now. So I think for now, we'd like to take that information and see what path people would like to take, and then we can look further into that.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for Chris? So thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So with that, we are going to Stephanie Simpson, our new Parks and Rec Director. I don't know if everybody has had a chance to meet Stephanie. She's coming up on a full year of walking in Carol Cook's shoes. So welcome, Stephanie.
Big shoes.
Big shoes, yes. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I have not had the opportunity to meet many of you, especially on the budget board. So I thought I'd introduce myself a little bit first for you before I get started. And Lori is going to be sharing my screen for me tonight, as I am sometimes technologically challenged. So I have been in Parks and Recreation for over 20 years. I have done most of my professional work in Illinois, have moved out here recently, bought a place back in 2017. So I've been coming here for a few years now, vacationing. So live here permanently in town, and I'm very excited to serve this community through the Parks and Recreation Department.
So I'll bring up your presentation, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I just got to get us back to the beginning.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
I was just trying to get rid of this notes bar. But for whatever reason, there we go.
Okay.
Stephanie, you're all set.
Thank you. Thank you. You can go right on to the next slide.
Okay.
So the Recreation Department is made up of 3 full-time employees. Myself as the director. We have an assistant director, Brees Regal, and a program coordinator, Hope Mowry. We also employ several part-time staff throughout the year. And then over the summer, we have several seasonal employees with our camps. Next slide. Why Parks and Recreation? Parks and Recreation is important to a community. It shows that it is a vibrant community, and it's basically an essential, non-essential. And we've seen that a lot with COVID and encouraging people to get outside, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. People were encouraged to go out, walk, run, bike on trails, get out to the parks, and enjoy outdoor. The activities that were first brought back in recreation were all the outdoor activities. Pickleball, tennis, those were still safe activities that people could do while they were, isolating from everybody. So it's a great place to get together with friends. It provides an opportunity for community engagement. For parents of young children, it provides a safe place for them with our after-school program, our summer camps, and gives parents a peace of mind as they go to work. We encourage healthy, active lifestyles, which also not only improve your physical health, but also improve the mental health. And it encourages lifelong learning and creates many memories. I'm sure many of us have memories of growing up and doing different activities in the parks and at the swimming pools and at the beaches and with summer camp. And so it's very important to have recreational activities in the community. Next slide. So the past 2 years have definitely been hard on recreation. People are programming differently. In the beginning, they did not feel safe coming together in groups. Large activities were canceled. Programs, were smaller, if we could have them at all. But we have had many successes over this past year, and we held a spring egg hunt last spring, which was the first time ever in Kennebunkport, and we are planning our second one this year, which we're very excited about. Our day camps last year, we served 168 campers throughout the summer in our different camps. Our after-school program, we hold, right, it says 70 on the screen, but we're actually up to 72 now. We got 2 new students. So in our after-school program, we serve 72 students. And I want you to think about this. The school only has about 150 students. So we are seeing many of them in our after-school program, which is very exciting for us. We hold the early release Wednesday trips for parents, for the kids, so the parents can stay at work, and our vacation camps. We have had several outdoor programs this past fall. We had soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, and this past winter we were able to safely hold a basketball program in the schools. Next slide. We've had some successes in our parks and some projects that we have done. So over the summer, the baseball field at Parsons Field was moved, and that was due to some issues with the sun and positioning of the field. We had the tennis courts out at Rotary Park resurfaced and painted, and they now have pickleball lines also on the courts. This past winter, we have installed our outdoor ice rink, and it got lots of use this winter. We had 2 great months of nice ice there, and we are now in the process of taking that all down. Next slide. So we did have some challenges, as I had mentioned. The ongoing pandemic certainly has affected the recreation department and the amount of offerings that we could do. We've had some facility constraints in that we use the school for many of our programming. And with the different guidelines they had to follow this year, we were not able to get in there to do any of our adult programming. The indoor pickleball, we had drop-in basketball, all of these programs could not run. So we're looking forward to getting back to that in this next year. And there's been changing habits of people in the community. So a lot of people were, fearful of getting together in groups. Parents maybe are still working at home and don't need childcare. We've also, this past year, we had a new staff. So myself, I haven't been there quite a year yet. Our program coordinator has only been there a year, and our assistant director has, been in here for about 4 years. So we have a lot of new staff and working through just kind of gaining some history and knowledge of the community. And we also face the labor market challenges that everybody is facing, competing with some of the bigger stores that are offering bonuses, high pay, and a lot of other perks of getting people into those positions. So we're hoping this summer, with hiring some day camp staff, that we will be able to compete with some of those bigger stores by highlighting what you can gain from working at the recreation department. Next slide. You can see the numbers here. These were the number of registrations for the past 3 years, and it has dropped over the past 2, which was expected with the pandemic. Going forward, we are seeing some more enrollment and things starting to pick up. We actually are hosting our first senior luncheon this coming Monday, and that filled up quickly. So we're very excited to see some people getting back into some recreational programs. Next slide. So our future. So we are going to continue to meet the needs of the community with our after school and summer programming for the children, but we're also going to strive to have offerings for people of all ages and come up with some new ideas for that. We want to become the central meeting place for the community. So we're, again, like I said, we want to offer programming that will, bring everybody into the rec department. We're also going to strive to maintain and enhance our parks and our recreation assets with our building and equipments. And we're looking to develop a Parks and Rec master plan. Next slide. The Recreation Department has two budgets. We have our general fund budget, which is our operating budget that covers our general expenses of running the department, our salaries and benefits, the utilities of the building, professional services, and our building and equipment repair. We also have the special revenue budget, which is approved by the selectmen, but it is basically our programming budget. It covers all the revenues and expenses that are program related. So anything that has to do with our programs will fall under that budget. Next slide. But I want you all to know that we do not do this alone. Throughout the year, we rely on volunteers. We have partners in the community and sponsors throughout the community as well. And this screen just shows a list of everybody we've worked with at some point throughout this past year. And we appreciate everything they do for us. And we do want to thank them for that. And that is all I have for this evening, but I would be happy to answer any questions in regards to the operating budget.
It was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Question for you, please. The replacement and moving of the baseball field, that was primarily due to a gift to the town, wasn't it? It was primarily not town money spent, but a donation of monies.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you for the donor, to the donor.
That was a generous donation by Alan and Wanda Daggett.
Right. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
And Wanda.
And Wanda.
And Wanda. Stephanie, there's also some talk about work being done at the park here in Cape Porpoise.
Yes, we're looking to create a master plan. We do want to do some development down at Fireman's Park and on Parsons Field. Yep.
Yeah, because I know the Tommy Mack organization wants to work with you.
Yes.
Yeah,
we have met with them. Yes.
Very nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
And we'll talk more about that next week at the capital budget.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Are there questions for Stephanie? On page 174, even though the budget for the special revenue does not go through the town meeting process, we did put together a summary of that special revenue budget so you could see the programs that bring in revenue. And so this is estimated based on our ability to do those programs along with our expenses. And you'll see the transfer out to the general fund, which you'll see in our revenue lines. And so the special revenue budget associated with programming allows them to be flexible and to take opportunities when they present themselves to bring on new programs as long as the revenue will offset that.
It's impressive revenue.
Well, that's assuming COVID doesn't cancel all our programs. All right. Stephanie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And if you haven't had a chance to meet Stephanie, please stop by the rec building. She's a delightful person. You wouldn't even know she's from out of state.
Thank you.
That's good.
So next we are going to page 185, which is the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Reserve Account. So this is an account that was established as part of the beach use agreement and beach use ordinance when the litigation of Goose Rocks Beach was ongoing. The town signed agreements with beachfront owners and backlot owners. And for every individual property that signed a beach use agreement, the town agreed to put $2,000 per property into a reserve account. For the maintenance, and we do have responsibilities associated with the maintenance and patrol and management of the beach and public access to the beach. So that in today's world, we have about 70 properties that have signed, and so we have about 140,000 we try to maintain in our reserve account. What you will see in here is the expenses we anticipate that we will have in 2023 fiscal year. So the largest expense you can see is the salaries and wages, and that is the funding to have the patrols at the beach. We have community safety officers we hire. They do both parking control as well as beach patrol to ensure that the rules are being maintained and to assist people visiting the area. We also have some miscellaneous expenses, so those could be associated with the brochures. Part of our responsibility is to educate the public about the rules. So we have brochures and signage that assist with that. And we also have budgeted about $5,000 for our water quality testing. So this budget works in concert with our reserve account. And so keep in mind the reserve account's a little bit like a wave, but the expenses, it goes up and down, and we try to average out at that 140,000 in our reserve account at any given time. Does anybody have any questions on our Goose Rocks Beach reserve account?
Lori, quick question. So we pay this money, the town pays this money, $2,000 per property for the maintenance, beach access, testing, etc. And what the property owners are giving up or their side of it is public access to the beach?
Right. So the beach use agreements were signed before the final title determination in court was established. And so what the beach owners agreed to was to give public access to the beach with the understanding that there would also be a beach advisory committee established, that those would be voted on by those who signed the beach use agreement, and that the town, and it kind of, if you look at the beach use agreement, it lists out some of the town's responsibilities, but they deal with education about the rules, maintenance at the beach, as well as really ensuring that rules are taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
But when we speak of it, $2,000 per signee, that is a fund which only costs the town in a given year when money is drawn out of the fund in the previous year. So it's not a $2,000 per signee each year burden on the town.
Right. And I want to be clear that that money doesn't go to the signees. It stays within the town, but it's meant as a good faith effort that we're going to keep this money in a reserve account in case something develops and that we need to address it on a financial basis.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
So I'm going to turn it over to Denise for contingency and debt service. Contingency is on page 191.
Okay, the first line under contingency is salaries and wages. And the description in the book is incorrect. That is last year's comment. That line this year is used for any market adjustments. The second line, accrued liability, is an annual amount that goes to our designated fund balance for cash outs when employees retire or resign. Fuel, this is the line that we started to talk about earlier. We put 10,000 in this year as a contingency for fuel, and this was before all of the recent happenings. So I reached out to Maine Power Options, which is a consortium in Augusta that helps municipalities with electricity and fuel bids, to see what other municipalities were doing or what the thoughts were. And based upon their feedback and our quantities that we use, I ran some numbers, and it looks like we'll need about 35 to 45,000 more than we budgeted within the departments. And so again, we've already budgeted 10,000 in that line. So we're looking for about 25 to 35,000 more. And we thought we could use the funds that are not needed from the landfill monitoring to move them into that line. And then the second line, the last line in contingency is the miscellaneous, and that's an annual amount that we budget for anything unanticipated that might happen during the year. We actually have 79,000 in there this year. You can see the 30,000 that we do budget. We also carried forward 49,000 this year so that we could use that line for the village parcel engineering costs. Any questions on contingency?
So at the bottom of the page, the miscellaneous line.
On page 192.
Mm-hmm.
Miscellaneous is on the second page on page 192.
Okay, I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the selectmen's contingency account. They have to vote to authorize the expenditure of that.
Thank you.
That miscellaneous couldn't be used for the fuel shortfall?
It could be used for the fuel shortfall. It would just mean that we wouldn't really have any other contingency available.
You need to have some.
So, I mean, we're giving you our best estimates on the fuel situation. Who knows how long this will go on, what it will look like, whether it will really impact next fiscal year or not. We're trying not to be over dramatic, but at the same time, be realistic. And that's why we reached out to some of other resources to get their advice on what they would suggest.
Could you clarify the relationship between the costs associated with the village parcel and the miscellaneous line item for contingency?
So the selectmen decided in September of last year, of 2021, to do the engineering and design for infrastructure for the road, for the first third of the road for village parcel. At the time, they were entertaining conversations with Kennebunkport Climate Initiative about the potential purchase of a parcel of property there. And in order to do that, we needed to better understand what those infrastructure costs were actually going to be, because the town would have been responsible for those infrastructure costs. So we had an estimate at one time and thought that it best to get that updated. So they originally hired Acorn Engineering to update that cost. Those costs were dramatically different than what they were 2 years prior when we had gotten the estimate. And so that's when they decided to do the design and engineering, because part of that was a $600,000 sewer pump station. And until that design and engineering was complete, we didn't know whether that was going to be necessary. Later tonight, Eric LaBelle will actually be updating the board on that engineering and design, but they've determined that the pump station is not necessary. And so really the contingency line there was used and able to fund that engineering and analysis study.
Thank you.
But there's no decision at this point to actually put the infrastructure in. because of course that would cost a lot of money that we don't have. That contingency won't cover that, that's for sure.
Sure.
Any other questions on contingency? So on page 211, I think your agenda says 197, but it's actually page 211 is the debt service. And so, Denise, do you want to cover that?
Sure. Yep. So you'll see that's 2 pages, and on the last page, you'll see that our debt service is up about $275,000. We added the $1 million tower bond, which has a 5-year, $200,000 principal payment, plus some interest payments. We also added 60% of the $2 million wastewater bond, which adds approximately $75,000 a year. On page 213, you'll see our current total debt over the life of all of the loans. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll see when they will be maturing. I'll draw your attention to the third line where it says 2025. You can see that we have a $8 million balloon payment that's due. If you turn the page to the next page on 214, you'll see what our payment schedules look like if we bond that balloon payment for 15 years. And that's just one option. We picked, 15 years just to see what it looks like.
So the village parcel debt was broken down.
Any questions on the debt?
So just to be clear on the balloon payment, the village parcel debt was broken into 2 portions. One was a publicly funded non-taxable bond, and the other was a taxable bond that could have private activity on it. So the private taxable bond was done for 5 years, thinking that in 5 years we might know more about what we wanted to do with the parcel. If we did sell any of the land off for private purposes, we could have used those funds to decrease the amount of debt owed there. So the non-taxable or public portion of the bond was bonded for 20 years. And so the thought process is if we wanted to keep it the same, we can either refinance that after 5 years into a tax exempt for public purpose, keep it as a private purpose, and extend the length to match the other public bond. Does anybody have any other questions on debt service? So that's everything that we had planned to cover tonight. As I said, next Thursday night, we'll be doing capital budgets and outside agencies. And so I'll turn it back over to the chairs.
Do you want the budget board to adjourn? Is that what we're doing now? We're adjourning?
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Sheila.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Question, if one wants to stay on for the continuing Board of Selectmen, should I re-sign in, or can Dave just demote me, or how does that work?
Just hang out, John. How about that?
That works.
You can take my place, John. I'm ready to go to bed.
All righty. Then we will go to item number 3. We just continue, right, Lori?
Yep.
Okay, item number 3, approve February 24th Selectmen meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
And Patrick,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan? Alan?
Bueller.
We're doing
Bueller.
the
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And I can see. And so motion passes. Item 4, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. Do we see any hands?
Jim McMahon.
Oh.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, thank you very much. James McMahon.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. I'll just be brief. I want to take this opportunity during the public time to make all the meeting attendees and viewers watching this recording of a voter registration and permanent address issue we have with our elected Kennebunkport School Board representative, Mr. Lewis Braxton. Mr. Braxton was living at the building at the Colony Hotel where the owners furnished him with a long-term place of domicile in our town. He ran for school board and was elected to the school board as a Kennebunkport representative in 2020. He's still a representative. His official address and voter registration at the town of Kennebunkport was at the building at the Colony Hotel. I was advised on November 11th of 2021 that Mr. Braxton's residence at the Colony Hotel was demolished to the ground, leaving no habitable dwelling and leaving the assumption that he resided somewhere else in Kennebunkport in order to maintain his voter registration and continue to represent the voters of Kennebunkport as a school board member. Again, this particular building was listed as his address prior to its demolition and allowing him to use it to register to vote and also run as the school board for our RSU 21 school board. On November 12th, I contacted the town clerk to inquire if they were aware of the Colony Hotel owners demolishing the building and if Mr. Braxton had called or stopped by to update his current Kennebunkport address with him as a means of public information. The town clerk advised me that the town was aware of the building being demolished and that Mr. Braxton has not been in contact with anyone from the town in order to furnish his new Kennebunkport address as a place of domicile. I asked the town clerk if we were going to ask him for this information. I was told the protocol was to have someone else reach out to the school board representatives to have this updated information furnished. I volunteered to email the whole school board, which included Mr. Braxton, the superintendent, and the Kennebunkport town manager, and the town clerk to have the school board chairman furnish that address information for public record. I did not get a response for several days until November 24th, approximately 2 weeks later. The response from Art LeBlanc, who is the chairman of the school board, emailed me back and advised me that this issue is not a school board matter, rather solely a municipal matter since Mr. Braxton was an elected position within Kennebunkport, and that I would have to work with the town manager, Lori Smith of Kennebunkport, in order to get that information. On December 7th, Lori Smith advised me that the town clerk is performing the process to confirm eligibility as a registered voter and that the process would take over a month. And so now over a month after the demolition of that Mr. Braxton was living, there's nothing proactive on his part to furnish a new Kennebunkport residence to the town. The town manager advised me he has not furnished any address, but stated he is a registered voter of the town of Kennebunkport. On January 21st, I emailed the town manager and the town clerk to ask the outcome of the hearing for Mr. Braxton regarding the voter registration. The town manager promptly replied back that the outcome has not been decided. She stated that the town clerk would decide further action over the next month. So now this is over 2.5 months after the place has been demolished. Still no action on his part to call the town clerk or stop into the town hall to furnish a new address where he would be living, and he's still continuing to be our school board representative. I called the town clerk on February 13th to get an update on the issue and was advised of the following. On January 27th, the town clerk removed Mr. Braxton from the voter registration roll based on an old address no longer existing. This was the address at the Colony Hotel that was demolished. Essentially, he would need to update his voter registration with a new address in order to vote in the future. I was advised Mr. Braxton had until February 28th to go in and provide a new valid address in order to register to vote in Kennebunkport. On March 1st, the town clerk notified the Kennebunkport selectmen of no valid address or voter registration. He will be removed, provided a 10-day appeal from the selectmen or be removed from the school board position. I was then told that the updated selectmen appeal meeting was set for March 23rd. At this time, the selectmen will make the decision to remove him from the school board position. I want everybody to realize that what I have said right now is factual and it's public information that they can inquire about with the town. I want everybody to know that during my inquiry on this issue, the town manager, the town clerk, and the selectmen have all treated this process objectively and in a professional manner. I encourage all residents of the town of Kennebunk to follow this issue and express their opinions. As a Kennebunkport resident, we should not tolerate a mockery of our democracy or voting privileges. The residents of Kennebunkport deserve better than this and the moral and ethical standards that we set in our elected officials. These individuals hold positions making our town policies, and especially those policies administered at our children's school system. As of this date today, we are now 4 months since my inquiry, and Mr. Braxton has shown no intent or proof that he has a place of domicile within Kennebunkport. He continues to attend school board meetings all remotely from an unknown location as our Kennebunkport school board representative. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any other comments? All right, then we will continue. Item 5, approve a liquor license application submitted by First Serve Kennebunkport Hospitality, doing business as Mabel's Lobster Claw, located at 124 Ocean Avenue. Staff recommends approval of this license. I have a motion, and I have a second. Take a roll. Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And I say aye. Motion is passed. Item 6, approve a liquor license application submitted by First Service Edgewater Incorporated, doing business as Mabel's House, located at 126 Ocean Avenue. Staff recommend approval of this license.
So moved.
Second.
And the roll, Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
And Ed?
Aye.
And I agree. Motion passes. Item 7, approve a liquor license application submitted by Shea Rosa LLC, doing business as Shea Rosa Bistro, located at Building D on Cross Street and Union Street. Staff recommends approval of this license.
So moved.
Second. Second.
And the roll, Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And George agrees. Motion passes. Item 8, consider recommendations of the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Committee. Do we have somebody here?
Yes.
Well, John.
In your packet is a memorandum that summarizes the recommendations from the Goose Rocks Beach Committee, as well as staff input on those recommendations. Kate Bauer Burke is in the audience, as well as John Dykstra, their chair and vice chair of the Goose Rock Speech Committee. Would you like staff to go through them, or would you like to hear from the committee? What's your pleasure?
Well, I think we've read everything.
Okay.
I would just like to say that, I, for those who don't know in the audience, I am the selectman representative on the Goose Rock Speech Committee, and it was a very, very extensive list. And we worked very, very hard to get it down to the 5 items that you see on the list here. And, I want to comment the Goose Rock Speech Advisory Committee for, they've got some very good people on there with a wealth of experience, and it wasn't an easy task to get them to whittle this down. But in the end, we wanted to make sure that what was put forward was something that could be dealt with in a timely manner. And I think this list here represents that very well. And speaking for myself, I would recommend that we accept this.
I'd second that, that we accept the recommendations by the Goose Rock Speech Advisory Committee and the reply by our municipal staff.
Anybody? Pat, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Alan?
None, thank you.
All right. My comment is, we all know that our roads are narrow. We all know our roads are narrow. When the landscapers do their work around that area, my thought is, I'm wondering if there's a sort of a central location or an area where it would be easier for them to park. The landscaping is a difficult thing. I hear comments like, well, they can pull up on the lawn or they can pull up in the driveway. Oftentimes the driveways already have cars in them. And if they pull up in the lawn, then how are they going to mow the lawn? It's sort of a catch-22. And I think this makes it very, very difficult for the landscapers in that area. I mean, I don't know what they're expected to do.
Well, they're not expected to park on the street because our ordinance says that they can't. And if we don't enforce our ordinances, then there's no sense to have them.
So, Ed, so that the people at Goose Rock Speech, if they can't,
this is townwide. We're going to enforce this townwide. This isn't just going to be Goose Rock Speech. It's going to be in Cape Porpoise too, where it's also a very big issue. This was something that we talked about, because that was the thing when it first came up. And I told them at the Goose Rock Speech Advisory Committee, I said, this has been brought forth to the Board of Selectmen. If we go back in the minutes, and it was pre-pandemic, because I remember we were actually meeting in person. Somebody came, and I won't mention their name, to one of our meetings to complain about the exact same thing on one of the parking areas in the North Street neighborhood. And, my feeling was then as it is today, if we have these ordinances, we need to enforce them. No parking is no parking. In the future, if down in Goose Rocks, they can come up with a place to put the landscaping vehicles and everybody can agree on that, that's not a problem. But it's a public safety hazard as well, especially on some of those dark tree-lined streets down there. You just don't see these big trailers. It's not just a pickup truck anymore. It's a trailer. It's a truck. They've got a big walker, lawnmower, et cetera, et cetera.
This is going to be enforced throughout the whole town, correct?
That's right.
Have we contacted any of the landscapers or any people? I mean, I think what this says to me is that it's going to be a complete hardship for any of the landscaping organizations. And consequently, my thought is, will they then say, well, we're just not going to do anything at Goose Rock Speech?
This is town-wide, Sheila. This isn't just Goose Rock Speech.
Well, but this is the Goose Rock Speech issue.
I've already met with Chief Sanford, and we are going to enforce this townwide as our ordinance says, period. You know, please bear with me. I'm tired. I've been on the ocean all day long today, and I just sat, like the rest of you, just sat through a long budget board meeting. This is just plain and simple, but this is what we're sent here to do, to enforce our ordinances, period. It doesn't get any clearer than that.
Pat's got a question.
I have a question, Sheila. I think this ordinance is going to apply to the public streets, not the private roads. So in cases where you've got a private road of some length and they pull into a private area, that is not one of the areas that's going to be policed. So they'll be able to park temporarily on the edge of the road while they perform their work. Is that correct?
Chief Sanford is here if you would like to hear from him.
Sure.
I think I would. Yeah.
Good evening, folks.
Hi, Chief.
Hi, Chief.
Hey, Chief.
So, this is a difficult situation for us. So, if the board wishes for us to start enforcing this, it will be on all public roads that are so marked no parking. There are some streets in town that aren't marked as such, and it's legal to park there. So, we will do our best. As I said in the memo, for this, I would want to have a period where I at least give some warning to these folks, and maybe they can make some adjustments to some of their equipment, because some of them do have large enclosed trailers with large dual cab trucks. And, they could make some adjustments, I think. I've talked to a landscaper that I know I used to work with, and, some areas they do have smaller vehicles and smaller equipment to go and service. So again, we'll do whatever the board wishes.
Seems like a hard chore to me.
I think you're opening up a can of worms. That's how I'm seeing.
I think if we don't enforce our ordinances, then we should all resign right now. There's no sense to be on this board if you're not going to enforce the town ordinance. If you want to change it, then, we can bring that forth to the voters, but these are our ordinances.
This will not just apply to just the landscapers. It'll be contractors and other service folks too that park where they shouldn't, and we'll do our best.
My apologies, Chief, for putting you in the middle of this, because this isn't your job. Is just to enforce the ordinances as well as ours is.
Well, let's think this through a little bit. First of all, I like the thing that Chief Sanford said about, giving a week of warnings or issues and so forth. But I know that we have in this town now a substantial explosion of new building, not just landscaping. And so we've got a number of places that are a number of contractors who come and park on the road, and at the same time that we have landscapers. So to me, what you got to do is you got to look at somehow. I agree a little bit with Ed on that. We either have the ordinances or we don't have the ordinances, and you can't pick and choose who can park in the no parking areas. I mean, it has gotten out of hand, and it's very difficult, especially in the summertime. The wintertime and is not a problem, but in the summertime, it's a problem. And I think we need to find a way. We either find a way to compromise, or we find a way that we'll just follow the ordinance. So I think that's our decision. We either got to find some way to compromise, but how do you compromise? What Ed says, it's you've either got an ordinance or you don't. And what happens if we enforce the ordinance?
Well, I look at it as when the landscapers arrive, it's really on a temporary basis. They're there for, anywhere from half an hour or sometimes 20 minutes to maybe an hour. And they're right there. They're right there on the premises. So if there was ever an emergency, all they have to do is jump in the cab and take off.
Yeah, I think Sheila.
So it's not like they parked and then went away.
No, but I think what you may be missing here is the safety factor. There are so many times when you can look at any street in town when there's a landscaper parked on one side of the road and a landscaper parked on the other side of the road at the very same time, actually, maybe a little bit one ahead of the other. It makes it very dangerous for cars. You either got to wait or you got to go. And I think we've been lucky that we haven't had many accidents with this whole situation. So I'm just saying that maybe there's some way that we can work it out, but we either have an ordinance or we don't. I don't know.
Well, just so you know, David James does have his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with Mike. You've got to have some basis for exceptions. Because what about the town vehicles that have to come and pump out sewers and that park in non-parking areas? Last year, I had a problem with the water supply down on North Street, and they had to come and make a big excavation. They had an excavator there blocking the one lane of the road. They had to do it. I mean, there was no place to put the excavator. You got to dig a hole. So there's got to be some basis of making exceptions. Now, whether it applies to anybody that wants to park in a no parking or whether you put some criteria on it, but it's got to have some exceptions allowed.
Digging up the road, David, for excavation purposes and to deal with issues, and parking there to mow somebody's lawn are two completely different things.
Okay, so put that into the restrictions, but
when Kennebunkport KK and WWD comes and digs up the street, or our own town crew does, we wouldn't tell them no because it says no parking there. We would, in those instances, I imagine there would be a police presence or at least a flagger out there to control traffic. When landscapers are out there, often, this really set me off about 3 years ago. I was going down Ward Road one afternoon and it was getting dark, and under the shade of the tree was a landscaper trailer parked on the corner of Ward Road where it makes the bend headed towards Langsford Road. And I almost ran into the damn thing. It was dark, you couldn't see it, and it was parked right in the middle of the road. It wasn't even off the road. And on Pier Road, they love to park on the sidewalk and in the road. So you can't use the sidewalk for pedestrians and you don't have 2 lanes of traffic anymore.
Well, what would happen if we met with the landscapers and got their input on how we could maybe take a look and maybe you say if it's at sunset, they can't park or whatever it is, but if it's going to be dark and they got to put the safety, I noticed a number of them don't put safety cones out. And that could be a regulation, but what would happen if we met with as many landscapers as we could and get their input for the solution, for a potential solution, other than just saying no?
I think there should be some kind of a hardship exception of some sort.
I think you need to rewrite the ordinance then, because the ordinance says no parking in these particular areas where there's no parking, especially at Goose Rocks Beach, where we fought a $1 million lawsuit over the beach and came up with the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Committee and all of these rules that we didn't have before maybe we imposed them upon ourselves. I wasn't on the board at the time, but we have an obligation to honor these, whether it be 175 parking spaces at Goose Rocks, because how do you say that the landscaper can park there because, he's got to park and mow the lawn, but the guy from New Jersey shows up and says, well, the hell with the landscapers are parked on the side of the road. Why can't I park there? And then the police go down and give the guy from New Jersey a ticket, and then the landscaper goes away. That's not right.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just saying, I think you're opening up a can of worms. the situation there, you know, I mean, I come down Langsford Road. If there's a landscaping truck there, I go around it. If somebody's coming toward me, I wait, they come, then I go. That's the way we've always done it. We're not.
When I was growing up, there weren't any landscaping trucks.
So Chief Sanford is or anybody who's knowledgeable on the ordinance, maybe Ed, is there a time limit on no parking? I mean, what's the criteria the police have right now for no parking? Do you give somebody a grace period, or like when your guys are on patrol and they go by and they see a car that's parked in the wrong spot, do they always stop and give a ticket, or do they if it's there the next time they're by, they do something? How does it work?
So, some spaces in town are marked, with time limits. So we've got to abide by those time limits. In a lot, everything is situational. So in the past, we've left the landscapers alone, but if there is a civilian car parked on the side, in most cases during the summer, we get out and give them a ticket. If it's a contractor in the winter, we've left them alone. So we kind of apply the rules as when it's busy. We try not to tolerate any parking down in the Goose Rocks Beach area, like in Dock Square near the coffee shop. That's always a crazy corner, and I can't turn my head, and there's always a car parked there illegally, and I have to stop and give a ticket. So, it's situational.
So you guys, like all good police departments should, use their judgment on what to do for a specific case.
Yeah, like time of year, location, what's going on, yes.
And what kind of how many people would you have to add to your department to monitor landscaping, parking during the summer? I mean, that's all you'd be doing.
We wouldn't have to add anybody else. It would be, another, busy thing. And, once a message is sent, I don't think it would be such a big issue. I mean, if we start issuing tickets, I'm sure most folks are not going to want to keep getting tickets, and they won't do it anymore, but you're always going to get those folks that are new to the area, and it may require that. That's why I was asking for at least a week period, maybe.
Yeah.
A week, a month, 6 weeks, whatever you think works, Craig, is fine. But at some point, we just need to enforce our ordinance. That's my whole point here. We are society of laws, and we have a whole agenda here of things that that this board makes decisions on that are based in rule of law, and we have an ordinance that says no parking.
And what if we worked, and Chief Sanford, what if we worked this summer, getting the landscapers familiar with the rules and the ordinances and so forth, and when we see them, or when the police see them, or whoever it is sees them, we very nicely, or however we want to handle it. These are good guys. These are good, hardworking guys, and
absolutely.
Yeah. So and trying to make a living. So why don't we do something during this year to condition everything to the following year, instead of just dropping a hammer down right now?
That makes a lot more sense. I'm
fine for phasing it in, as long as we are willing to realize that we need to enforce the ordinances that we have. And this isn't about landscapers. I know I keep saying this, and I have a lot of friends who are landscapers, and you're right, Mike. They're very hardworking people. But for me, it's a public safety issue. I just see the
Ed,
blocking up the traffic. Yes.
Our speed limits are such that we don't go fast on these back roads, on these side roads, which is why we haven't had acts. I can't tell you if we've had no accidents, but it certainly is very limited. Because when you are going down a road like that, you're going slow. You're going slowly, and
you're supposed to go slow.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
But
Madam Chair, can I make a suggestion? Can we skip over one and vote on the other four and come back at another time for this number one to continue it? Because we need a little more information.
That's fine with me. Everybody?
I agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
So right now you have a motion on the table, though.
I'll withdraw the motion.
So do we want a different motion that will do 2 through 5?
Yeah.
Well, and then I'm not done. Number 3, I want to know if there's a legal aspect to the stripe on both edges of the road, because the stripe signifies sort of a walking area, or does it?
Not necessarily.
I'm going to have Chris Simeone speak to this.
So typically, a white line on the side of the road would be representative of a fog line, such as like maybe what you'd see on Route 9. Typically in town where we have a no parking area on streets, generally that ends up being a yellow striped line. So putting a white line down there doesn't necessarily, conform to any of the standards that are in the, trafficking, the National Traffic and Control Manual. I understand the thought process by, at least by the people that proposed it. Perhaps it'll create some friction and try to get people to slow down. But I am concerned that it may lead people to believe that it would be a pedestrian way or a bike path. And that is my concern with it.
Yeah, I was concerned that there would be a legal thing with it.
I think if the legal concern is if we are pretending or acknowledging that instead of just an edge line, that it is a bike or pedestrian way, we want to clarify that we could edge the paint line to bring definition to where the edge of the road is, but we would not be encouraging people to walk there.
Right.
No, I think a fog line makes a lot of sense in that area. They do get a lot of fog in the Goose Rocks area. It's right on the ocean. And I know, speaking personally, when I drive around at night, that white line makes a big difference on the side of the road.
Okay.
I just wanted to also let you know that Kate Bauer-Burke's hand has been up for a while. I guess I missed that.
I didn't hear you, Lori.
Kate Bauer-Burke has her hand up in the audience.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, yep. Kate.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. I've been going crazy trying to wait. I also want to point out that I think, hopefully still with us is Barry Engel, who was the moving force on the Traffic and Safety Subcommittee that the BAC reactivated, I should say. It's been around for a while. And he, with 2 other gentlemen who are experts in traffic engineering, have worked long and hard on this whole subject of traffic and safety at the beach. I must say that while we have an enormous, as we know, influx of people coming to the Goose Rocks Beach. I can't speak to enforcing this elsewhere in town, but our concern was primarily what we were seeing at Goose Rocks Beach. We have an enormous number. We're trying to balance the safety issues between an enormous number of pedestrians who like to use these roads as walking paths, as well as children. Many children on bikes, particularly on some of those roads, along the beach roads, along Community House Road, going to and from the programs at the community house there. And we have multiple uses of it's not just cars, it's not just landscapers or contractors. We have the problems of pedestrians, children, etc. So that's what the Barry and Art LeMay and Tom, I'm drawing a complete blank, I apologize. He's a wonderful traffic engineer, very much, very expert at this, have come up with these suggestions. The landscaping, I understand that that is going to be a problem where the contractors, people who are used to parking on the streets. And at the same time, I can personally speak to the fact when we built our house 24 years ago, we've used the same wonderful landscaping contractor for all those years. And even he started out coming to our house with one lawnmower, may have been a power mower, but it had to be pushed. It wasn't a big riding mower, and it fit in the back of his pickup truck. Now he, like so many others, as you know, different capabilities have been developed in equipment, usually comes with a much bigger truck. And I see many landscapers going by our street with extensive sized trailers. So we all know that that's a problem. And I agree with you, Sheila, they can't park on the lawn because they have to mow the lawn.
Correct.
It still is a problem. And we, working with them, I fully support that idea and not, lowering the boom on them. But it is a problem that needs to be addressed in terms of the safety issues at the beach, or at least at the beach roads, which is what we're most familiar with. Same thing. I don't, as I said, if Barry Engel's out there, I encourage him to raise his hands and perhaps speak to this firsthand from what he and the other experts he conferred with come up with these particular recommendations that were adopted unanimously by the committee, except for Ed abstaining, understandably so. So the striping versus the striping we were looking at as basically, again, last name. The traffic experts pointed out that the striping is known to try to help people understand that that the road is narrower and they should be moving more slowly. We're not saying necessarily, although we're leaving it up to the public works here, whether we actually go for the more extensive sort of pedestrian type of marking. We're looking primarily at the west end of Kings Highway and Community House Road. We already, in past years, have added technically a pedestrian walkway on New Biddeford Road, which is not the full-size walkway that our experts have told us is normally considered a 6-foot wide walkway for pedestrian/bike lanes. But it's narrower and it has had some helpful effect. It's taken a while for people to get used to this idea, but it is being used effectively. And hopefully, instead of people wandering down the middle of the road to have a walk, they tend to use that. So we'd like to see, we're trying to put together a few things that can work and could be accomplished this summer. Whatever. That's kind of my comments on that. I hope that I just want to fully understand the increased foot traffic, bike traffic, as well as car traffic that we are experiencing at the beach. And we don't want to be doing this in response to an accident. We don't want to see a child get hit on their bike. So we want to take some safety measures. People do speed through there. It would be nice to think that people follow, the stated speed limit signs, but that's not necessarily the case. And that's from observation from many people who live there full time. Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions. Or if John or if Barry's here also have any comments that would be helpful.
So what do you want to do?
They want this as a package deal. Maybe they go back and reword or work on number one and then bring it back to us.
What are we going to work on? The ordinance is the ordinance, Sheila, period. There's, especially in Goose Rocks, as I explained before, there's a limited number of parking there. We can't say landscapers can park wherever they want, but nobody, or contractors, but nobody else can. I'm having a hard time understanding why this board doesn't want to enforce its own ordinance.
It's not a matter of not wanting to enforce the ordinance. It's a matter of not wanting to make it so difficult for a crew of working people to work in an area and have the town say, no, you can't park here. You know, I'm thinking of the continuity of work that goes on in our town every day.
In about 5 minutes, I could point out 10 ordinances that would show you why people can't just do what they want. That's called laissez-faire. There are plenty of ordinances. Hey, there are things I'd like to do out on my front lawn and so, do things in the summertime, but I can't because the ordinance says. And same with other people. Heck, I'd like to put a pay parking lot in my front yard and charge people, but I can't do that because the ordinance says you can't.
Mike, I think you're muted, Mike.
That for a reason. But it was because my phone was ringing. That's I forgot to turn it on. But I get that, Ed. But I think we got to have some kind of a reasonable phase in, and we can't just lower a hammer. I think we should have a phase in for it somehow and come up with some reasonable, time frame for implementing it. And the other thing to think about is, and I'd like to, I'm in that category. The majority of the people in this town are over 65, or at least a lot of them are over 65. I can't do my landscaping. I'm going to be 77. I can't do my landscaping anymore like I used to. And I got to have somebody do my landscaping. I bet there's a lot more people around here got to do the same thing. And what are they going to do? They're going to drive their lawnmowers here and so on? No, they can't. And I don't have a driveway where they can park. My driveway. There's no way that anybody can come in my driveway and park. So it's to be reasonable. I think we've got to have some kind of a phase in, not exceptions, but a phase in, and work with the landscapers and whoever for a year and see what we can do together, rather than just go no. So I have
no issue with that, but all I'm saying is at some point we need to enforce our ordinance.
So might I suggest that maybe we give this some more thought and put it on the March 24th agenda?
Thank you.
Yep. And then
I'm good with that.
I've got more. I don't mind the white lines. I think, that's probably a good idea. Like Ed said, on those foggy nights, it's nice to have the white lines. Number 4, why are we putting up more signs? When I was on the Goose Rock Speech Committee, one of the things that they talked about was the more signs you put up, the less people read them.
Well, they're working on tearing down a bunch of their signs and consolidating them, but I don't have it in front of me. Are we talking about the sign to say parking this way, Sheila?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you have indicating parking and a sign to approve, blah, blah, blah. All right. And then a pictogram.
Oh, they want towing, yes.
And then added signage where appropriate.
Yeah, well, you can strike that added where appropriate.
And then the sign that says indicating parking, when you come down Dyke Road and it says parking to the left. If I were a guest, if I were a tourist here and I saw parking, I'd be looking for a parking lot.
Well,
I'm just saying to you that this is what I would do, and I think that a sign like that is going to be confusing. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think the idea, Sheila, behind it was there's 4 parking spots on the west end, and people get there, and it seems as though a lot of them go to the right, and they get down to the end and they find there's no parking because the 4 spots are already filled. That particular, and the majority of the parking is to the left. So that was the idea behind this. It's not.
So they turn around and come back.
I don't think that's not smart. I think that's a good idea to do this. I don't think turning around and coming back is a good idea.
No, and that's part of the reason. You're right, Mike. But and that was part of the reason. And I apologize for talking over you. There's a little lag here, but that was part of the reason that they wanted to stripe the road, is because people go down and then apparently, and I'm not down there, but then they rush back to the other end of to the west end, or excuse me, to the east end, because they're looking for the parking. They've been down. They're like, oh no, there's no parking. I got to get down here because I need to find a place and get on the beach. That was the rationale as explained to me.
You could put parallel parking to the left. That way that would solve the parking lot
parallel
issue.
Parking on the west end too. It's all parallel parking.
I'm fine with the parking to the left. I get that.
I am too.
And they are working on reducing all the signage at the beach itself. They've got some plans. I mean, that's outside of tonight's scope, but I don't think they want any more signs down there either.
And I agree with the chief that we don't want to have a towing logo on the sign either.
So do I. Agree with you, Mike, on that. Absolutely.
I'm fine with that.
So we're putting the entire list back on the next agenda.
Okay. That would be my
suggestion.
Okay. I'm fine with it.
That's fine.
I was fine with it half an hour ago.
better than having to come back and retract. Item number 9, authorized procurement for wastewater centrifuges.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we've, just to give you a quick recap, last summer we went through and we piloted a bunch of equipment in our parking lot here with our sludge. We narrowed it down to a few vendors that were able to meet the requirements of our sludge requirements, which was to do water to a certain level. And so we since have gone out and done a life cycle analysis on there, and we've hired Woody Kern to do that. And basically evaluated those 3 firms that were able to actually meet our criteria. Based on those, it was decided that the Westphalia, GEA Westphalia, was going to be the most cost effective for us to purchase, operate, as well as compared to the others. So there was a recommendation there that basically is recommending purchasing that equipment. The cost, including the warranty, would be about $480,800, which give you a 3-year warranty on top of that as well. To purchase 2 centrifuges for the dewatering. The next step would be that we would like to purchase this equipment, and then at that point we will go forward with the design of the dewatering room that we have here at the plant. We will deliver this equipment to a general contractor that has been awarded the modifications of the treatment plant here. They take possession of that, then install that equipment. We're hoping sometime maybe fall or early spring next year.
I'd make a recommendation that we award the contract to Westphalia Centrifuges for $480,000, which includes $12,000 for a 3-year guarantee. And I do want to say, Eric, before we vote on this, that I was really impressed with the analysis that you guys went through on the 3 potential suppliers there. It was outstanding.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Good. And we will take the roll. That would be Pat.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Motion passes. You guys have a big job ahead of you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Item 10, update on village parcel engineering. Eric again.
Yes. So we've received our 60% plans. So part of the exercise that we went through when we hired Acorn was to evaluate whether we could eliminate the use of a pump station that was designed in the original design of the village parcel. We were able to do that. However, we'll have to come back to North Street and actually extend some of the utility installation, but it probably provides us a savings of over $500,000 to do so. Obviously worthwhile if we're able to eliminate that pump station and keep everything gravity operationally as well for us. It's much easier for us as a wastewater department. And so we're comfortable with that design at this point for the first couple thousand feet or so of the utilities and road. The road's been redesigned. It has some of the stormwater as well in that project. Where we are right now is I've basically asked Acorn to put pencils down at this point, meaning to just stop work. We're under contract, or we had contracted with them to take us all the way through a bidding process. And right now, since we don't currently have a client, which is when we first started this process, we had a potential client. And since we don't have that right now, I've asked them to stop. And so really, I'm just at a crossroad right now as to whether how to proceed forward and how the board might want me to proceed at this point.
Any comments?
Yeah, I think that we finish up the engineering, and we got to wait until we do. We settle out on if we're going to do any kind of subdivision change, regulation, code changes, and so forth. There's not much sense to go ahead with this stuff until we know what can be done. And we're going to have to go through revision of the lot sizes and the codes and everything else like that first. So we don't have enough to go out for the bid process.
I agree.
I think you're right, Mike.
So I think if we finish up the engineering, and that's good for whenever we want to use it, unless there's a big earthquake or something and moves everything. But I think that the engineering's done. We got all the details, all the drawings and so forth. Those will be good for whenever we start again, if we start again. And so I would just say, that's it. We wait.
We'll just put it on hold. Yeah. Do we need a vote for that, Lori?
Just for clarification, so are we speaking about developing specifications and all, or basically putting a bid package together for construction?
We're not going to do that.
Okay. So I might recommend that we stay, because 60% really provides us and tells us that we know that we can construct what we proposed at this point. And should the contractor have some changes they want to make, or I say contractor, I'm sorry, potential developer might have some changes that they would like to see. Maybe this is a good pause point for us to just stay back and knowing that we can. The biggest piece was getting rid of that pump station.
Right.
60% is really, we say 60%, but it's a pretty darn close to a 90% document. It's just that they haven't gone forward on specifications. They haven't gone forward on contract, as we call the front end and the back end of the documents, of the bidding documents. I just haven't moved forward with that. That's also, I've asked them not to move forward with that at this point until I heard from you folks.
Yeah, I agree on putting things on hold. And just keep what we have for the time being. Hopefully prices will come down after a while. We'll see. Lori, do we have to take a vote on this? To put
We're really looking for direction from the board. And so you could take a vote to pause the contract at this point if you want, or you can just
I don't think we need to.
I think we just let Eric, we'll just pause it. Yeah.
Pause it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that good, Eric?
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Item 11, review Proposed ordinance revisions for June town meeting.
Werner is here to review those with you, but not all of those are Werner's. So I would refer you to item 11 in your packet. The first ordinance that you have to look at is the waterfront ordinance. And you can see that this is just an amendment to include Goose Rocks Beach as an exemption from having to belong to the pier in order to have a mooring in good standing. There are already exemptions listed, and Goose Rocks Beach was forgotten from the list, so we're looking to add that. Is there any questions on that?
Nope.
Nope.
The last one in your packet is the Chapter 80 Kennebunkport River. So these are amendments to the river ordinance. So keep in mind that Kennebunkport has a river ordinance and Kennebunk has a river ordinance. And the harbor master in the middle of the river is trying to enforce both ordinances. And so over the years, the two had gotten a little off alignment. And so these bring us up to speed on current practices, as well as bring the two ordinances in alignment. And those are the changes there. The River Committee has reviewed them, as well as the town attorney and the harbor master.
So this is just reconciliation with Kennebunk, basically? Okay.
And Kennebunk will need to make some changes to theirs as well. Any questions there?
Nope.
So I'll turn it over to Werner to review the sign ordinance.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Werner.
Good morning.
So I have before you a number of proposed changes to the town's regs that govern signage. These are in two different categories. So one category would be signage, that relates, specifically to content, and that's probably the majority of what you have here in your packet. What these ordinance amendments do is I would say it somewhat neutralizes the language in the ordinance that deals with content-based restrictions for signage, and this is in response primarily to Supreme Court decisions that occurred in 2015. So that's the first piece of the sign ordinance amendments. The second piece of it has come out of what we talked about the last time was a desire for the town to potentially think about having some internally lit message boards that would be located at town properties. As you all know, the ordinance currently doesn't allow for internally lit signage of that type. And so there's language in this document that would allow for that to occur on town-owned property only.
Well, you know how I feel about light up signs in Kennebunkport.
Yeah, we'll make sure we don't have to get a really big gaudy one. I mean, there are so many different styles out there.
Yeah. So my request will be to have these as two separate warrant articles.
Yeah,
so we can have a Budweiser sign in a window and all that. No, I'm serious. Is that what we're saying?
No, what we're saying here, Mike, is that because it's specific to town properties, it's internally lit signs owned and operated by the town of Kennebunkport, located on town of Kennebunkport property. So it's narrow,
limited.
It's limited in the sense that it's signage for municipal purposes, not for business purposes.
And only controlled by us, by municipality.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And this would allow us to have a display sign that gives messages to the public if the town desired to do that.
Okay. So these will go to vote in June?
Well, what we're looking for, is a vote from you guys to continue to move them forward. We would then go for a final review
Okay.
by the town attorney if you were so inclined, and prepare them for the warrant.
I make a motion, we proceed with the proposed ordinance changes.
Second.
All right, I'll take a vote. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Well, since I agree with 2/3 of it, I'm forced to vote aye, even though I don't want an electric sign.
well, you don't have to vote for it.
I probably won't,
Okay. And Sheila
but,
says,
I'll move forward with it for sure.
well, that's good for you, Ed. Motion passes, and on to number 12. Approve contract extension with TZM Planning for comprehensive plan project. Forgot the last word.
Great. Yep. Thank you. So that one, that's another one that's mine. As you all know, we've been working on the comprehensive plan. We've had a good relationship so far with our contract planners. Tom Morgan and Liz Durfee. As you all know, we took a pause during COVID. When we weren't quite sure what was going to happen, fiscally with the town. And then we restarted the project again once we knew that things were a bit more secure. One of the things that is, that's part of our comp plan is there's a lot of data that's available that's within the plan. And so one of the things that this contract extension would do is would allow and authorize them to go back and update a lot of the data, which is at this point now a little bit outdated. And this would allow for time to do that, as well as for some additional meeting time to get us to the goal of a November warrant for the comp plan.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the contract extension with TZM Planning for $10,600.
Second.
And we have a second. And just to make sure that the public knows, the Comprehensive Plan Reserve Fund has the necessary funding in place, just so that they know that.
That's correct.
We'll take a vote, and it's Pat.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Motion passes. Item 13, authorize a release deed for Forwood Road, owned by George H. Guilford III and Joyce R. Guilford.
So moved. We don't need the easement anymore.
Right.
Second.
And I'll take the vote. Pat.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Motion passes. Item 14, review the select photo for annual town report cover.
A lot of good ones here.
I know.
So in your packet are the photos, and Tracy O'Rourke is here, who is in charge of the annual report and can answer any questions for you have about them. I don't know if the board is ready to pick one tonight.
I can tell you the Weston family recommends number 3.
I picked number 3.
Is that in front of your house, Mike? Is that the one you're
No,
talking about?
it's. I think it's up at not Turbot Street, but
Oh, yeah, that is a nice one. Geez, I didn't see that. I like number 8, but I like them all. It's just.
I like number 3 too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Very nice. Pretty.
Hale Miller's old place.
Yeah, the town forester likes number 3.
Before Hale Miller's old place, it was Tony Emmons'.
Oh, Red Miller. Was his real name Hale? Red Miller? Hale was his brother-in-law. That's what I was thinking.
Hale was one of his sons. But that building that you see there, Tony Emmons built that back
no kidding.
1965. Yeah, I was just a kid.
it just shows the tranquility the water and a little fish house and the fall leaves and so forth. It's just
it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah. It's everything.
It's very nice.
They're all very nice. I'm very impressed with these.
They all are. They all are.
Yeah.
Ed, number 8 would have been my second choice.
Okay, good. Yeah.
They're all very nice.
I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
So we have a vote that we're going to do number 3.
Number 3 it is.
Yep.
Great. Tracy, thanks you for your consideration on this important matter.
Thank you. Easiest part of the night.
Good.
You can say that 2 more times.
You can bring some of these pictures back next year because they're just gorgeous.
Yeah. They're gorgeous.
Yep.
All righty. So we did that. We're on to item 15, other business. Pat, do you have anything?
Oh, not tonight, thank you.
And Mike, do you have anything?
No, nothing.
Okay. And Alan?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Ed?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. And I have nothing. So, Lori?
I am all set.
Really?
All right. Well,
okay.
Well, I moved the warrants before she changes her mind.
Second.
All right. And I will take a roll on that. Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And Jill says aye. Motion passes. And we'll be going into executive session per MRSA 1, number 4056E, concerning the legal rights and duties for pending or contemplated litigation. My mouth stopped working.
It's been a long night. It's been a long
We just
night.
need a motion and a second on that.
So moved.
Second.
Do I have to take a roll call?
Yep.
Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. So
just so the public knows, there won't be any votes taken at the end of this.
So we leave and meet you on the other side.
Yep. Meet you on the other side.
all right. Good night. Good night. Good night.